Mr. Rammel, are you going to be calling the next witness?
Yes, Judge.
Who's that going to be?
Judge, the state would next call Gary Lyu.
Can you give me a title? Is there a title? to
Judge,
Mr.
Mr. Lyu.
Mr. Lyu.
Appropriate for today.
All right. Mr. Lyu, please come forward. Mr. Lyu, please stand in front of this plexiglass, raise your right arm and face the clerk.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in the cause now pending will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Lyu, you can have a seat here. Once you've been seated there, you can take off your mask. If you'll pull that microphone up to your chin, we're making a record. Mr. Rammel, you may inquire when you're ready.
Thank you, Judge. Can I have you state your full name and spell your full name for the record, please?
My name is Gary Lyu. Last name is spelled L-Y-U.
Mr. Lyu, where are you employed?
I'm currently employed with the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
And how long have you worked for the FBI?
Just a little over 4 years.
What position do you currently hold with the FBI?
I am a forensic examiner.
Can you explain your educational background and training to the court, please?
Yes. I have 2 undergraduate degrees, one in business, one in information technology. I have multiple IT certifications and one specific to forensic examinations and to smartphone analysis. And I am also FBI CART certified.
What office are you currently assigned to?
I am at the Intermountain West Regional Computer Forensic Laboratory in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Do you have an acronym for that office or
It's-
that lab?
Yes,
What-
it's IWRCFL. IWRCFL.
Mr. Lyu, do you have specific training and certification or certifications, of in dealing with forensic examinations?
I do.
Can you explain those to the court, please?
I have a GCFE, which is a certification for forensic examination, and I have a GASF, which is a certification for advanced smartphone forensics. And again, I'm also FBI CART certified.
And as a part of your job and duties in your job, do you commonly examine forensic items such as cellular devices?
I do.
Mr. Lyu, can you generally describe how a forensic examiner conducts a typical investigation of electronic devices?
Sure. The forensic examiner usually follows a prescribed set of protocols laid down by the FBI. And these generally include intaking the item from the submitting agency. And once we intake it, we want to ensure that there's proper legal authority accompanying the evidence items. Once we ensure that there's proper legal authority, we assign specific specimen IDs to each submitted item. And then once we give each submitted item a specimen ID, we generate what we call a chain of custody report. And we give a hard copy to the submitting agent, and we keep a digital copy of it at the RCFL, the IWRCFL. And then once we do that, we take the submitted items to a secure evidence control facility at the lab until it is assigned to an examiner. And once the
I'm going to
examiner,
stop you right there for a second. So until it's assigned to an examiner, is it unusual for to have more than one forensic examiner assigned to work on a specific case?
no.
Testify that it's taken into a secure area after that documentation is done. What do you typically do next?
Once the case is assigned to an examiner, he or she can check out the evidence from the evidence control facility into his or her custody. And usually the first thing we do is to document the condition of the items anything that's unique about it, such as serial numbers, any damage, things like that.
Does the FBI lab you work in have policy and procedure in place to help ensure the integrity of data utilized in forensic examinations?
Yes, we do.
Can you please tell the court about those processes?
We use something called a hash value. It's something akin to like a fingerprint for a specific file, something that's very unique. And even if you make a small change to it, it will contaminate the data and it will change the entire hash value. And that's how we verify the integrity, and it has not been intentionally or unintentionally modified.
So something as small as someone adding a comma to data that would change the hash value.
Yes, very much so.
And do you use a specific hashing tool?
Yes, we do.
And are you trained to use that program?
Yes, I am.
Is that program generally used and accepted within the forensic community?
Yes.
You explained a bit. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions about the lab receiving items or intake from external law enforcement agents. Can you explain the role of an OST in the lab?
An OST stands for Operational Support Technician. This person is in charge of intake, among other things, at the lab.
Within your procedure and policy within the FBI, does the OST typically assign a specimen ID to each item?
Yes.
Is a specimen ID given to one device?
Yes.
Is it ever changed or reused once assigned to a specific device?
No.
And this process of accepting devices from external law enforcement sources, it's documented.
Yes.
Is it, and what is it documented upon?
It is documented in the chain of custody
And
form.
are chain of custody documents common at the Regional Computer Forensic Lab?
Yes.
Are they just suggested?
No, it is required.
And are they created in the lab?
Yes, they are.
There on location?
Yes.
Are they kept in the course of regularly conducted activity that goes on there?
Yes.
Are they generated at the exact time when evidence arrives?
Yes.
And that's a regular practice that occurs.
That's correct.
When you specifically are assigned to review a device, does it always have a chain of custody document?
Yes.
And you yourself, as the analyst, has access to that information and enters information on that?
Yes.
Judge, I'm going to have defense provided and then the witness, what has been marked as State's Exhibit 30.
Exhibit 30 will be handed to the witness.
Mr. Lyu, what is this?
This is a chain of custody form for a specific item
And how do you know?
because I see the specimen ID and I see the case number and I see my name on it.
Is a chain of custody document that you are currently assigned to work on?
Yes, it is.
Judge, I would move to admit what has been marked as State's Exhibit 30 under Rule 8036, records of a regularly conducted activity.
There won't be an objection, Judge.
Exhibit 30 will be admitted.
Mr. Lyu, I'm going to have you take a closer look at that exhibit, what has been marked as Exhibit 30. What is the first entry on that chain?
It is dated January 15th, 2020. It shows Bruce Mattingly from the Fremont County Sheriff's Office dropping off an evidence, and it was received by our OST, Taylor Couch, at the IWRCFL.
And what is the specimen identifier? Do you refer to them as specimen IDs, specimen identifier numbers,
Either one will work.
specimen ID attached with that chain of custody?
It is IWR 091201.
And what item does it refer to?
It's an LG cell phone.
And when did you first take possession of that item?
I took possession of it on January 16th, 2020.
And is that reflected on State's Exhibit 30?
It is.
I'm going to hand you, or have the witness, if I could have him handed, what has been marked as State's Exhibit, marked and admitted previously as State's Exhibits 28 and 29.
The witness will be handed exhibits 28 and 29.
Mr. Lyu, I'm going to have you look at those. When you're done looking at them, would you look up at me, please? What is that a picture of?
These two are pictures of an LG cell phone.
And have you seen that phone before?
I have.
Where was that?
When I took possession of it at the RCFL.
Anything particular about that phone in those photos that catches your attention?
Yes, the phone cover is a clear rubber outer case with purple glitters in it. It has hearts in there too.
So safe to assume that you review a lot of cell phones.
I do.
A lot of cell phones that are black or that color.
Yes,
So your testimony that easier to recall this device, or it stands out when there is a phone case such as this attached to a device?
yes, it does stand out.
What did you do with that device?
After I took it into my custody, I powered it on, attempting to extract the data off the device.
Were you able to extract the data off the device?
I was not.
And why so?
The device was locked. I attempted to unlock it, but my attempts were unsuccessful.
So what did you do next?
I submitted a request to FBI headquarters for their unlocking service.
And did you take steps to have that sent to be unlocked?
Yes, I packaged the phone and I gave the package to our OST to be mailed out to FBI headquarters.
Did you recall the specimen ID on that device?
Yes, it's the same one I provided earlier.
And can you provide it for the court again?
Yes, it's IWR 091201.
And when you took steps to have this sent to be unlocked, was it clearly marked with that specimen ID?
It was?
And was it in fact sent?
It was. We have a shipping number for that.
And is that reflected on State's Exhibit 30?
It is.
And where was it shipped?
FBI headquarters.
Did it ever return to your possession?
Yes, on March 12th, it came back.
And is that reflected on State's Exhibit 30?
Yes, it is.
And did you take possession of that device?
I did.
Is it the same device that you identified in State's Exhibit 28 and 29?
It is.
The same device that you had sent off?
That is correct.
And did it contain the same specimen ID?
It did.
Was there anything else added with that when it returned?
Yes, when the phone was returned, I also received a 16 gigabyte SD card containing the extracted data from the phone provided by FBI headquarters.
Was there a hash value generated for that extracted data?
There was.
What did you do with those items?
I took possession of the extraction and I parsed the data into a forensic tool to generate a report of the extracted data.
Mr. Lyu, I'm going to stop you right there for a second. Can you explain what parsing is?
Parsing in this instance is taking computer language, basically ones and zeros, that's not human readable, and we convert it into a human readable form so we can, as humans, read it and understand it.
And do you use a specific program for parsing?
I did.
And are you trained in that program?
I am.
Is that program generally accepted in the forensic community?
Yes.
What did you do with the data after parsing?
After I parsed the data, I generated a report of the entire extraction, and I created a working copy of it and gave it to the case agent.
What is a working copy?
A working copy is a work product that has not been finalized yet that we usually give out to agents who want to see kind of the intermediate steps of what we're working on so they can gather more evidence or look through the products themselves.
And what medium is the working copy provided on?
I believe I put it on an optical disc.
And that optical disc, do you mark it with identifiers?
I did.
What identifiers do you provide?
I marked it as IWR 091201 along with the words working copy.
And you provided that disc to the working case agents.
That's correct.
Mr. Lyu, we've spoken a little about, was there, before you sent to this item out to case agents, is there another step that you take?
Yes, the last step that I did was that I re-verified the original hash value that was given to me by FBI headquarters. And the two hash values match.
And did you run your own hash value analysis?
Sorry, can you?
I'm sorry, you ran your own hash value analysis
Yes, I did.
prior to and, okay, so my question is in terms of the hash value itself, did the pre and post examination of those values match?
Yes, they did.
And what does that tell you?
The hash value, if they match, that means that the data was not tampered with, was not modified in any way, shape, or form. It means that the ending extracted files were the exact same as what the FBI headquarters gave me. There were no changes at all.
So something as small as a comma would have changed that.
Yes,
Them being identical shows that that was not even added.
that's correct. Nothing was changed.
And at that point, you provided the working copies to case agents.
That's correct.
Judge, that's all I have for this one.
Thank you, Mr. Rammel. Cross-examination, Mr. Pryor.
Sir, what is the name of the parsing program that you use?
It's called Physical Analyzer.
Nothing further, Judge.
Thank you. Any redirect, Mr. Rammel?
Not based on that, Judge.
All right. You can be excused, Mr. Lyu. Thank you for being here.